nobody else. Everything gon' fall in place if you being real. Real in your steps, I'm talking real in every breath that you breathe. Only way to receive every order that you need to succeed. It's time to rise up out that black state. Look in the mirror, tighten up, grab yourself if this correlate. Cause I've been through that block shit. Dark nights, black thoughts, knowing I can't grow in this environment.
Knowing I can't grow in this environment. I let the past go, it's totally relevant, yeah. Coming out the back, yeah. Coming out the back, from blackness, free. Raise the ashes, raise it. Wake up.
If not nobody else, everything gon' fall in place if you being real. Real in your steps, I'm talking real in every breath that you breathe. Only way to receive every order that you need to succeed. It's time to rise up out that black state. Look in the mirror, tighten up, grab yourself if this correlate. Cause I've been through that block shit. Dark nights, black thoughts, knowing I can't grow in this environment.
Knowing I can't grow in this environment. Let the past go, it's totally relevant, yeah. Coming out the black, yeah. Coming out the black,
Mighty Talks with me, Nuben Menkares. We live again. We're going live. So everybody get a chance to get in the chat room and whatnot. Those who have questions, my lovely wife is going to be assisting. One of my lovely wives is going to be assisting me today with the questions. I want to answer questions today, but I want to get these topics out of the way beforehand. All right. Before I do anything, I always got to start off in the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord. And Amen we trust, and Amen we think, and in Amen we continue forward forever. With that being said, let me get my questions up, and we're going to chop it up and discuss a few things. Some things that have been on my mind. You know, I got a lot of things on my mind, as always. As any real man should, and any real woman who is thinking, we should always have a lot of things on our minds. You know, things that are relevant to our minds, things that are relevant to who we are as a people. We should always have important things on our mind, you know. And very few things, the beautiful thing about that is that very few things I find in this life as I mature more and more, you know, with each year. I'm 52 years old now. And, you know, hail Amen for, you know, giving me a beautiful family, beautiful children, beautiful people, upright and stand-up people in our community. You know, I don't take any of that for granted. And this is why I work as hard as I do, turning out broadcasts, you know, doing these podcasts now. You know, just getting there, transmission out there, get the message out there, to the elect of our people, the chosen of our people. And that's who all I do these podcasts for, because, I don't seek validation from anybody. And I'm going to speak about the seeking of validation. I don't seek validation from people in, in the greater society, the larger society. I'm not going to call it the greater society. I'll call it the larger society, because most of these people are brain dead. They're not really with us mentally. So, but we'll discuss that as well. All right. I'm going to discuss mental illness today. All right. Mental illness that is being masqueraded as racism. All right. Take a sip of my coffee. I'm going to tell you what I mean. We're going to go into this. You have mental illness today that is being masqueraded as racism, in that, you see these racist police attacking black people and other people too, but especially black people. Especially black. There's an ongoing thing with black people. You see these racist incidents coming out. Even this clown who does this little comic strip, Dilbert, Dildo, whatever the hell this guy, Scott Adams. I don't even know who this clown is. He just comes out of nowhere and starts talking about he gonna stop helping black people and all this nonsense about white people need to get away from black people, all this other nonsense, and just saying random things. And they would rather, the media would rather frame this as some sort of racial meltdown. They would rather address it that way instead of what it really is. This is a male, this Caucasian male, who clearly has mental issues. He clearly has mental issues because to sit around and think about people who are not thinking about you at all, people who just basically living their lives, and just for you to, come up with this whole idea of speaking on black people. And like I said, people speak on what they want to speak on. But when you have a platform as large as his, or he can get on big platforms and start talking crazy about, race and things like that, and that's fine, like I said. But to try to utilize or try to make, your thoughts somehow, trying to make your thoughts, have weight to them by trying to stir a racial thing, that's just so weak. It shows someone, who is obviously middle-aged, obviously has mental issues, obviously has self-esteem issues. Look at this guy. The guy, Scott Adams, the guy who did the little thing talking about black people in his look at his comic Dilbert. I used to see his comic in the comic strips on Sunday and whatnot. I think he was in comic strips and whatnot. And I seen it and I was like, are they just paying white males to just make up anything and draw anything? They ain't gotta have no kind of talent at all. I'm not, shout out to the ones who, who really got talent. And this is a real downgrade from the Peanuts, with what's the guy's name who created the Peanuts? I forget what his name is. The guy who came up with the Peanuts. It'll come to me. But it was like a real downgrade from seeing cartoons in the newspaper to people coming up with Dildo or Dilbert or whatever the hell his name is, character is, and the character looks like a dildo. You know what I mean? With ears and glasses on. That's what the character looks like. It looks exactly like this guy, Scott Adams, this clown. Looks exactly like this clown. But again, don't fall for the whole racial thing. Are trying to make people who are mentally ill racist. You see, because to call somebody like him somebody with low self-esteem, obviously somebody who got, so probably social issue, a social issue, probably a sociopath, you can look and tell with these guys. These guys look like if you heard that these guys turned up being serial killers somewhere, or that they had a stash of about 20 or 30 women under their house some damn where they don't kill or something. These socially awkward people who, you know, like this guy, you probably see his career was coming to an end. Anybody thinking about it, just like that guy Ben Stein, who that guy that Ben Stein, Win My Money, he look like he on his damn last leg. He just talking all kind of foolishness about wanting black people on his pancake box and stuff like that. You see, they start talking all that racial nonsense as a form of hiding their mental illnesses. You see, what kind of person in their right mind thinks of something like that? There's so much more going on in the world, so much more you can be pursuing about your life, making your life better. But what happens is these people run into a block in their life. Like they get to a point in their life where I've done everything I can do or I think I can do in my life. I've accomplished everything. I basically hit burnout. Nobody cares about me anymore. I'm not relevant anymore. So let me go right to the go-to topic that is always a hot topic, race. And let me go to the people who garner the most attention in the media. I'm going to go to black people and start talking about black people because they, you know, black people garner the most attention. Hell, let's just keep it real. YouTube wouldn't be YouTube without black people and black content on it. It wouldn't be. If without black content on YouTube, TikTok, and all these other social media sites and whatnot, they wouldn't be worth a damn. Nobody would care about any YouTube videos. You would only be looking at YouTube for information, you know, to find out how to put things together. But other than that, that's it. It's black people that make YouTube all of their money. Their content is, you know, the hottest content on YouTube is black people stuff. Not anybody else. Just keep it real. All right. Everybody else, that's nice. That's interesting. But, you know, like I said, you get your documentaries and stuff like that. And that's cool. But never mistake that as far as music goes, as far as podcast, entertainment goes, things like that. Bronze people, so-called black people, are at the core of that, you know, of that financial base, that financial media base for YouTube. That's why when I hear a lot of the content creators crying about, you know, money and not getting money from YouTube, all these content creators, they need to get together and put their own service together and build their own YouTube. They should, you know, try to build their own YouTube because nobody should be sitting up here crying about what they're not getting from YouTube, especially when you got 800, 900,000 and all that. You better off just getting some kind of dedicated service, something like that. Just basically setting up a stream service for your own stuff and just collecting money. You better off doing that, man. You'll see more money, see more of your money, and you don't have to have to deal with these YouTube flags and strikes and shadow bans and all this other nonsense they do to content that they deem inappropriate. They deem inappropriate because they don't like the content, because it might not be something that follows the narrative. Yet they could put videos on, you know, where they show full frontal nudity, where they pushing homosexuality and all kind of, you know, sodomy and all kind of the nonsense which I've seen. And especially if it's coming from black men, they'll put that up there and they won't give it no strikes or no nothing. So, you know, not to get off on a rant about YouTube, but I just had to say that. Yeah, a lot of this racial stuff, don't see, again, you know, racism is really, like I said, if you think about it, racism is really the go-to for mentally ill people. If somebody screams out and they somewhere around black people, niggas this, nigga that, and they start going crazy, nigga this, nigga that. If they start doing that, first thing you're going to think, these people out their goddamn mind. Who does that? What is wrong with you? Something is wrong with you. And it's not being addressed as what it really is, mental illness, even down to people burning crosses on people's lawn, blowing up churches like the Klan, them people were doing back down in Mississippi. All them people are mentally ill, man. Or how you know, they showed those old pictures of them hanging a black person and burning them. They standing there with their children. They stand there with their children and young children, and their whole family standing around and watching a man's body burn and hang from it, if those pictures even real. But aside from that, what kind of sickness do you have in your head to want to do that to somebody, to a physical person, to burn somebody like that, to harm or mutilate somebody in front of your children and take pictures of it, or cut off somebody's testicles and all kinds of, but yet these people are never labeled as insane. Notice that they're never labeled as mentally ill. You know why that is? Because white people, I'm not going to say all white people, but Caucasians, the ones who are the racists, they never want to point out the real racism, the real mental illness in their race. They don't want to point that out. They'd rather say that those people are racist because, see, racism, or I just don't like you for the color of your skin, which is bugged out and mentally off. You know, just because you don't like the way somebody look, you're going to try to harm them or work against them instead of just minding your business and leaving people alone and letting people live their life. See, because that's what intelligent people do. Intelligent people mind their business, stay to themselves, do what they got to do, and don't worry about anybody else until somebody comes and does something to you or tries to harm your family, of course. But just on the face of that, that's people who are mentally ill. They don't want to address these racist people as people who are mentally ill, socially awkward, off. Like what you see a lot of those people in the South who are like that. They don't want to address them like that because the last thing they want to admit to is people who have a mental illness in their race. And that's a lot of them that have that mental illness. Just like you got so-called black people who got mental illness within the so-called black race. There's a lot of mental illness. These are people who are mentally ill. And again, it has nothing to do with color or race. It's just mentally ill people. Black, white, you got mentally ill people. It just happened to be a whole lot of ones within the white race who are calling themselves racist. Just happened to be a whole bunch of them. And this guy, Scott Adams, is clearly wonderful. Ben Stein, all these Karens out here who, they see a so-called black person doing whatever, not even bothering them, not doing anything wrong, and they want to call the police. They mentally ill, man. These people are mentally ill. And it's only going to be but so long before you can keep sweeping this under the rug. The police cater to these people and their mental illness, right? They cater to these people and they talk to them. And again, this is why it's going to bring me to my next point, what I'm about to say. And that is, well, let me go on to I'm going to take this thing about validation. Why we got to stop seeking human validation, amongst these other races, these Caucasians, the Asians, the East. I'm talking about our people, bronze people, so-called black. The biggest thing that holds us back as a people from evolving out of that two-dimensional mind frame. And when I say evolving out of that two-dimensional mind frame, I simply mean thinking that our existence, our life has to parallel other races of people's lives. Our existence, our life shouldn't have to parallel everybody else's life and whatnot. In other words, we shouldn't be dependent on what other people think for our future, for the future of our children, for our livelihood. We should not be dependent on people for that. I hear black people say this all the time. In 20 years, 30 years, I'm going to be on my job. I'm going to retire. I want my children to get this education and this, that, and the third and get a job. And again, those are all forms of validation. We should be, as a community, a collective community, focusing on the betterment of ourselves and don't worry about nobody else. Don't worry about who like us or who like us or who don't like us. Going forward, 2023, black people, y'all need to just basically know that you have no friends in this society, man. You don't have no friends of these other races. You may have a few sympathizers, but we have no friends. And we have to ultrastand that we have no friends. And if you're looking for people to validate the things that we are discovering about our people, the things that I teach about my people through MENTELLECT, if you're looking for people to validate that, Caucasians and all these other people, no, I'm not looking for that. We're definitely not looking for no validation for somebody to tell us we right. We don't need no attaboys and, y'all doing good. We don't need that. The best thing people can do for our people is leave us the hell alone. That's the best thing that can be done for so-called black. Leave us the hell alone. You see. But it's people who don't want to leave us the hell alone, like these Scott Adams and all that, who want to try to create some kind of racial, crazy, bugged out narrative about him helping black. I'm through helping black people. No, you ain't helping no black people do nothing. Nobody even know you. Nobody even know black. I'm pretty sure the average black person don't know who the hell Scott Adams is. He's just some random Caucasian male running around here talking out his goddamn head, sound like an idiot. That's all. He's just an idiot with pale skin running around talking crazy like a lot of idiots with pale skin, like a lot of idiots with dark skin. Nobody cares. People trying to live their life, man. Go live your life. Go live your life. If you so concerned about life, go move to Nova Scotia somewhere. Go, well, maybe you Caucasian people who got a problem with bronze people, so-called black people. You know the real Americans? Those of you who got such a problem with black people, why don't you get up? You got a whole lot of white countries in Europe you need to go live in. You need to go to Nova Scotia. There's so many places where it's just all white people in Europe. You need to get up and go there. Got them beautiful blonde white women, like y'all say, them beautiful blonde white people. Y'all can go to Nova Scotia. There's a lot of places in Europe y'all can go where you're going to see 0% of black people. That's how you do. You know, like how the Pan-Africanists run out of here to Africa thinking they're going to, you know, somehow escape racism. Okay, whatever. To Ghana, Liberia, wherever the hell they going at in Africa. You know, the real Americans are conned into believing they got to go. They should go back to Africa, a place they've never been before, a place they never came from. But that's another. So we need to stop seeking validation from people, because nothing says servitude and submission like seeking validation from other races of people. We shouldn't have to do that. I know I don't do that, and I know I don't tell my people to do that going forward as the real Americans. I asked this question. I didn't mean it to be part of my topics, but I'll go ahead and ask this. People always talk about how deep God is and how God moves in the spirit. But my question is this. Bear with me on this question. If God is supposed to be so deep, if God, those of you like this shirt, the Underlord, New Underlord, white face and red, but you know, we'll talk about that. But if God is supposed to be so deep, why do so many shallow people follow God? I mean, think about it. If God is supposed to be so deep, so omnipresent, omnipotent, omnipotent, this God person, why do so many shallow people follow God? You got the hood rats that believe in God. You got the thugs and the gangbangers that believe in God. You got the white racists, cross burners, and the white supremacists who believe in God. You got the sodomites who believe in God. You got all of the worst kind of people that believe in God. How is that? How is it that all of the worst and shallow type of people believe in God? Hell, Jeffrey Dahmer believed in God. You see? Just forgot about all the stuff he did, though. But I need to know that. How is it that the worst, I don't care, it's not a racial thing again, because I don't consider myself to be racist. I'm more of a realist, which I'm going to touch on. Because you got a lot of people up here say, oh, this guy's a black supremacist, or he hate white people. No, I don't. I equally don't like white people or black people like that. I equally don't like neither one of y'all. I told you in the last part, I don't like black people, and I don't like white people. I like bright people and light people. That's a whole nother level. Y'all ain't ready for that. I did it in my broadcast. I don't like what black people are supposed. I don't like the ways of black people, and I don't like the ways of white people. And, you know, pretty much the whole human race. I don't like the ways of these people because they have not evolved mentally. They still arguing over stupid stuff. You see, the goal should be to come, live your life, leave people alone, and people are able to move in their own lane and their own trajectory. You see, that's what it's supposed to be. But all right. How is it that all of the worst kind of people follow God? How is that? Make that make sense to me. You see, I'm sorry, I can't follow the same God as the hood rats. I can't follow the same God as the gangbangers. I can't follow the same God as the racist Caucasians and whatnot who do all the stuff they do and claim to go to church and believe in Jesus. I can't follow that God. You see, how do they say a tree is known by the fruit that it bears? So if you're the fruit of God, you know, if you're the fruit that comes from the tree of God, then I don't want to be part of the tree of God. I don't. I don't. That's why I follow the Lord. The Lord and God are two totally different things. The Lord deals with law and order and what it means to be real men and real women. Lord is really another way of saying law and order. Structure, ordinance. People who are carrying themselves on a high mental level. The people that believe in God, they tend to carry themselves on a low mental level and try to make excuses as to why they do it. You know, like how, again, going back to the whole racism thing, they try to make excuses as racism. No fault for the whole racism thing. It's just people who are mentally ill. And mentally ill people are dangerous to everybody. I'm going to just be real. Mentally ill people are dangerous to every and anybody. You could be screaming nigger one minute, then they'll turn around. Them same people screaming nigger and talking about burning, girl, they'll be the same ones who'll be your serial killers killing your white daughters. And they'll be in your ear. They got a problem. When your white daughters start disappearing, your white sons or your children start disappearing from these same racists who are screaming nigger, they start cannibalizing on their own people because they're mentally ill. See, mental illness knows no boundaries. If they don't have somebody to focus their mental illness on, they're going to turn on their own people. So I like how rats will turn around and eat their young when there's no food. When they can't feed on somebody else, they're going to feed on themselves. You see? You see the mental illness there? Let me move on. Going back to this black thing again. Are we disrespecting our ancestors by calling ourselves black? By calling ourselves black people, are we disrespecting our ancestors? The elders, as you say. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. See, nobody... Let me take a sip of water. Nobody ever speaks on why in the early part of the 20th century, our people, the bronze people, the bronze copper colored people, they didn't want to be referred to as black people. You know, the government and society, Caucasian society, you know, we went from being the copper colored people that's spoken of in the 1828 Merriam-Webster dictionary of who the first Americans are. Look up American. I always tell people, look up American. And it tells you in 1828 Merriam-Webster dictionary who the real Americans are. And anybody that comes being after that are just U.S. born citizens. They're not Americans. Because you can't be the nationality of one place and then be the nationality of someplace else. Okay? I'll get back to that in a second. But we are disrespecting our ancestors by calling ourselves black because they didn't want to be called black. They didn't want to be referred to as black people. They didn't want to be referred to as Negroes and black people. That is something the government did to call our people black and Negro, and then eventually African American through people like Jesse Jackson. They didn't want to be called these things because they knew that they were not from Africa, and they knew they were not black. Their skin was not black. In fact, remember I pointed out the other time about the Bronzevilles in different places where our people were at because of the bronze skin of our people, the bronze copper colored skin of our people. They didn't want to be called black because that was not describing them. It was not an adequate description of our people. Our skin is not black. So we had to be tricked. We had to be tricked into calling ourselves black. Because, like I said, the elders were still around in the 40s and 50s and whatnot, and they were still resisting the whole black thing, the whole Negro thing. They got the Negro thing over on us, and then eventually came black. And like I said, if you refer to the elders as black back then, that was fighting words to call somebody black. If those elders were still around, they'll tell you calling somebody black, that was fighting words. Don't call me black, I'm not black. Because they didn't want to be referred to as black, and it had nothing to do with, oh, see, this because they didn't want to be, they was ashamed of who they was. No, they didn't want to be described as something their skin is not. Their skin is bronze, copper color. I don't care if it's the darkest skin, so-called black person here in America. your skin is not black. The most you're going to be is a dark bronze skin complexion. I don't care. There's no such thing as a black person. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as black people. Now, you can go to them deep, deep parts of Africa. Now, you can find them burnt people over here in Africa in like certain places where the tribal Africans are who got a sunburn where them people burnt black. Those people who are the tribal Africans, you know, those ones who burnt, but you can tell those people. Those Africans, you got some black Africans. You really got some black ones in them. And they even there, it's a really deep, deep, dark brown. You see. But you do got some black-skinned Africans, some ones who really super black. And that's the ones who got burned by... But see, when the sun hits us, American bronze people, as I say, American bronze people, ours just becomes more of a reddish bronze type of thing. We don't never really burn black. We don't. We process sunlight into sheen and more, illumination in our skin. You can see that. You ever see the sheen that comes off of our skin when we get a tan? When we tan through the sun, it gets more of a sheen, of a rich reddish bronze. Even the beige complexion, brothers and sisters, because we got different shades of bronze or copper. You got the beige complexion, the yellowish beige complexion people, to the reddish bronze people, to the dark bronze people. We got three different shades of bronze that we are. So for us sitting up here arguing over stupid stuff like who's a light-skinned black, who's a dark, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. Who light-skinned black people? There's no such thing as light-skinned black people and dark-skinned black people. Black is black, and we have nothing to do with that anyway. But my point is, it is a total disrespect to our ancestors. So when you hear, and you got a lot of these guys who were raised by their parents who, these so-called Pan-Africanist, black conscious teachers who going around here trying to push blackness on us and Pan-Africanism on our people, yet they were probably 9 times out of 10 raised by parents or grandparents who told them didn't want to be referred to as black, and they knew exactly why. So when you hear these Pan-Africanists, these pro-black sitting up here trying to get us to buy into the whole black thing, trying to get us to, call ourselves black people still in 2023, don't listen to these people, man. These people have an agenda. They work for these Caucasians who want to keep the black and white thing going. A lot of these Pan-Africanists that's pushing that. These Pan-Africanists who ain't never been to Africa, or ain't trying to go live in Africa, who don't have no African names, but you trying to sell me Pan-Africanism. How the hell you want to sell me Pan-Africanism and being black, and you ain't got no place set up in Africa? You don't have no African name legally. You going to try to sell me Africa? Really? How do y'all fall for this? How do you fall for somebody who got a damn English name, you know what I'm saying, and he trying to sell you Pan-Africanism? That make sense to me. Shouldn't you, as somebody who is supposed to be a advocate for what you teach, shouldn't you be the first one that, dons the names, have a place set up in Africa and be like, yeah, this is what we got here, and we got it going on over here in Africa, and we, Africa's supposed to be like the damn Boom Boom Room. Like that one movie, what's the name, the Boom Boom Room? That nigga, you supposed to be selling Africa like the Boom Boom Room. But you not. Dr. James Smalls, Umar Johnson, where your African names at? Dr. John Henry Clark, all these guys that got dressed up in these costumes, and these little kente cloth costumes, trying to sell us African Americanism. You see? You got to ask yourself a question. Why don't these people have African names? Why don't they have any setups in Africa? Why are we not seeing them in Africa amongst the Africans? If they really feel that's where they come from, and that's what they telling us we supposed to be. Because this guy, Dr. James Small, no disrespect to him, I told you this guy, he gonna say, he said to Umar Johnson, oh, I ain't giving up no Africa, I ain't giving up Africa. Africa's the richest continent on the planet, Africa. Like you own Africa. He said it like he actually got a stake in Africa. What are you talking about? How much land you got in Africa that you saying like you really losing something? If everybody say we in America, we ain't associated with Africanism no more, or Pan-African, what are you really losing? You got a whole bunch of land in Africa, Dr. Smalls, or whatever your name is, Smalls, Dr. James Smalls. No disrespect to you. I'm not disrespecting you, but I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. How you going to tell people to go and embrace Pan-Africanism and being African and black and all this other nonsense, and you yourself don't have an African name? You, Umar Johnson, and all them other people that was pushing Pan-Africanism. You see? Dr. Africa with a K. That's some name he clearly made up. That's not where the African names at? Where's the African culture that you try to promote to our people? It just sounds like an agenda to me, man. And I'm pretty sure the ones who are pulling the strings, they not black hands, so-called black hands. I think they white hands behind y'all. I'm gonna just keep it real. Because those are the people who you go to in these colleges for your tenures to become doctors and professors and whatnot. So you know you got to follow the script. You got to follow the Pan-African script. I get it. But I don't want it. Let me see. Why are real American Indians, the cowboys, and why are so-called black people the real American Indians and cowboys? You know, for y'all to sit up here and always ask about what our real culture is, and you keep looking back to Africa, again, I told you, our people are the Mayans. Black people, so-called black people who are being called black, you know, the copper-colored race, the bronze people, we are the Mayans. The Mayans were a huge, huge nation of people that came into the Americas and spread out all throughout the north, into the north and went into the southern regions. And most of our people here in the Americas, we have Southern background. I know I do. We all have Southern backgrounds or island backgrounds because the people on the islands are American too. Those are Indigenous Americans on the islands too, aka West Indians. We nothing but North America. We real black people are really North American Indians. That's what so-called black people are. The bronze, copper-colored people who came from the Mayans, who came into North America, the first people to set up civilization. There was nothing here. We came into North America from South and Central America, like I said in the other video. But why don't any of these, and that can be proven, why don't any of these Pan-Africans ever address that? How come they don't address the occupation of North America by the Mayans, who were the first people to occupy North America? And they're not Mongoloid Indians. That's already been proven already. They even got sculptures of these people, and they look like just straight bronze people, so-called black people you see today. How come that's not ever addressed? How come that's not talked about in your so-called African American studies? Because I wanted to do a broadcast on that, but I'm going to discuss it right now. Black history, African American history, is really just some made up, marginalized nonsense. What is black history? We came on the slave ships. We went into slavery. We picked cotton. They let us free in 1865 over a war. And Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, and that's it. Tell me what else is comprised of so-called African American history. That's pretty much African American history. Tell me I'm wrong. Is that not it? We came from Africa. White people brought us from Africa, according to his story or their story. They brought us from Africa. We was running around butt naked in the jungles of Africa, right? That's what we learned in history class. And we was brought over here in bondage on the transatlantic slave trade. And then we went into on plantations where we were working for 200, 300, 400 years. And then they decided they wanted to let us out of slavery around 1865 because of the unions and all this other stuff and whatever. That's it. That's our history. That's what they teaching us. That's black history. You know what? That is a load of BS. And I'm going to be honest, I'm glad if this is what was being taught in schools and Florida and other places, I'm glad that this guy DeSantis, I'm glad they no longer teach African American studies, because if they're teaching us this garbage, then we don't need to listen. I don't want my children learning lies. I don't want my children learning lies, and neither should you. We already know what the reality is. The real truth is that we were already in America before Caucasians came here, before the Asian Mongoloids came here. We are the only real Americans here. We came from South and Central America into North America. as the Mayans. And we spread out throughout there. And when they came here, they found us here. And it says that. It says that in the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary of American debunks all of American history and what they say about slavery. You do realize that, right? Y'all do realize, go look up 1828 Merriam-Webster. I should have it up here. I want to know how to do the screen. We'll still have it up there. It'll jump to that. We'll learn how to do that. We evolving in the broadcast. But just that right there totally debunks the African slave trade. That totally debunks the African slave trade. Or us all being from African ancestry. That's a damn lie, man. Mass majority of black people, so-called black people in America who got family here going into slavery and back to slavery, not beyond slavery, and family was in the slave, in slavery or whatever, or have family, 9 times out of 10, y'all American Indians, man. You American Indigenous. You're not from Africa. Okay? That's the reality of it. And we got to hear the reality because a lot of people play with it. A lot of people play with it and they don't just say it straight. Of course, there's information out about that. Of course, there was information out about us being the American Indians. Again, I shouted out Karimio, Ahawu, even though I had to get on you for a second. I shouted out him. I shouted out Dane Calloway. I shouted out Sister Enra Vanzetta and other people who are coming out and bringing this out. And, like I said, 1,000 go-aheads. You need to put out some more videos. So you got a lot of sources of people who are bringing out the books and bringing out all of the documentation, but I don't see these Pan-Africanists disputing it. I don't see the Pan-Africanists stand up and disputing it. If anything, they try to stand against it, but they're not going to say they're wrong. You know why they're not? Because, again, these guys get paid to lie to our people. These Pan-Africanists get paid to lie to our people by the Caucasians. They get paid to lie to our people, telling our people we from Africa. Telling our people, y'all black-skinned people. That's how they get their paychecks. That's how they get to write their books and get these tenures at these colleges and things like that to teach African-American studies. That guy, Henry Louis Gates, he another one, man. He's a big do boy for these Caucasians, man. Especially at Harvard University, at Harvard, or one of Princeton, Harvard, one of these places, the African-American studies. Of course, he's going to sit up here and toe the line for Pan-Africanism and we from Africa like nonsense because that's where his money come from. But notice none of these so-called these African professors and whatnot, none of them got African names. Think about it. I said, why are we the real Indians and American? I saw people that are real American Indians and the American cowboys because I put up an excellent documentary where you had the bronze cowboys, the so-called black cowboys, breaking down where the word cowboy came from, which is what Caucasian, they said the Caucasians were called, working on the farms and on the ranches, they were called cow hands. And the bronze men, the so-called black men, were called cowboys. Because, they was calling us boys back then. The Caucasians, they love to call black men, so-called black men, bronze men, boys. It makes them feel good in some kind of way, in some kind of sick way, to call another man a boy. In their mental illness, they was referring to us as boys. Right? So, that's where the term cowboy came from. Hey, cowboy, come over here, cowboy. And then after a while, cowboy sounded cool. They do sound cool. So credit to the Caucasians for coming, and trying to diss us, trying to diss the so-called black men, the bronze men, calling us boys and calling us cowboys, but they kind of put together a cool little acronym there. It sounded better than cow hand or ranch hand. Cowboy sounded cool. And when something sounds cool and they seen the bronze men rocking the cowboy and all of the wrangling and all the stuff, the bronze man that was the first one to break the steers and whatnot. Guy, I think his name was Deadwood Dick. I forget what his name was. But you had a lot of bronze cowboys, so-called black cowboys, wearing the hats and stuff like that. They was already breaking their hats and their brims. They was having like those Mexican type of hats, and which again, we the first Mexicans too, breaking the brims to hats and whatnot. And they had those Mexican type hats. And then of course the Stetson company, an English company, the Stetson, they saw it and they just started making the cowboy hat. So obviously that hat was inspired by black men, so-called black men, bronze men. Because if you say it's a cowboy hat, then that's our hat. Who are the cowboys? Caucasians are not cowboys. They were cow hands. We are the cowboy. They didn't call it a cow hand hat, did they? They called it a cowboy hat. Because the cowboys, the black men, the so-called black men, the bronze men, when I say bronze, y'all know I mean black men, the bronze men, really, they're the ones who had the hat named after them. Because they were the ones breaking the hats down, the Mexican style hats, when they were breaking them down and doing that. And all Stetson did was make a hat like that. Because I think Stetsons go back, they was making those English style hats and things like that. They were making those kind of hats, right? And then they saw, the cowboy hat, meaning hats that bronze men were breaking down and making and make. You know how we do, we put some style on it, tuck it to the side, put a little, flavor to it. And they saw it. They was like, that's cool. So now it's a cowboy hat. And now who's the cowboy now? Now the cowboys got to be the Caucasians now. And you already know we're the real American Indians, of course. You know that. The American indigenous people from our Mayan ancestry. From our Mayan ancestry. The real Indians come from the Mayans. If you look at the Mayan ancestry, you can see where all the feathered head crowns and all that come from. And your Mongoloid Indians, Dane Calloway just put out a good documentary on that Black Americans are really American Indians. The last one he put out, go check that out. I want to put in the description. I acknowledge sharing information. So information, information, is supposed to be, constant. Information is a constant thing, man. Intelligence is not. You got to learn the difference between intelligence and information. Anyway, but check out that Dane Calloway video about American Indians, black people being the real American indigenous people. As an Indian is another way of saying American indigenous, right? So when you see us when you see me with the feathered head crowns on, next one I'm probably having on some, when you see us with that on, know that that's our culture. The feathered head crowns and all of that. I'm going to be doing something on whether the American indigenous people are the real Hebrew Israelites, which they were. But, go on. Oh, I wanted to touch on this. All right. My logical solution to racial profiling and police mistreatment of black people. From a pragmatic standpoint of police departments being sued by people losing their loved ones, by these trigger-happy policemen shooting people and abusing people and whatnot. There needs to be a solution to this, because after a while, people are going to start to hit back and they're going to push back when you keep doing stuff like this. When people keep losing their family members, cities have to pay out settlements to people. There has to be a solution to this. There has to be a solution to this. Nobody wants to lose their loved ones. And like I said, to allow this to keep going on because you have no solutions you're not trying to look for solutions, it starts to look sketchy in the minds of people who you expect to behave as law-abiding citizens, who you expect to pay taxes and join the military, but yet you are not protecting these people. You are allowing them to be abused by your policy enforcement officers. Again, I got to always make sure I say policy enforcement, not law enforcement, because the majority of these police officers don't know the law, the so-called law. They don't know it any damn way. That's why they get mad when they hear y'all talking about, I know my rights and the law says. They get mad. They really don't know the law, because they're not there to be law enforcement. They're there to be policy enforcement. That's why they call police officers, policy officers. But anyway, the simple solution to dealing with this misconduct from these police officers, this racial profiling, this abuse, and even murder on so-called black citizens here in America is simply to have a black division to deal with black people. You need a black division in every police department across this country to deal with black people. You should not be sending out white, Latino, or Asian officers to deal with black people. There should be a black division. So when there's a problem in a black neighborhood and whatnot, You need to send out when you need people walking the beats, when there's a call, when you're pulling over a so-called black person and whatnot, you need to call the black division. The black division of that department needs to handle that. And you would think that these police officers, these Caucasian ones, would be happy with that because now they don't have to face disciplinary action. They don't have to face lawsuits. They don't have to face getting in problems because if anything falls down on the black, nobody can play the race card no more and say it's a black and white thing. Let black people deal with black people. Simple as that. The same way they're trying to push in Mississippi and Jackson for Caucasians to be able to deal with other Caucasians, They pushing for a separate police department and court system for white people than black. Now, my thing is this. How you going to ask for a separate court system or police system when both systems are run by Caucasians? You want a separate one where you saying we want to be dealt with as a special class. Now, you got people who have this going on. You got the so-called Native Americans, right, who have their own police force, who they deal with their own people on their reservation. The police don't really bother with them. They got their own police force. The Asians in places like Georgia and California, they got their own police force. The Jews, they got their own police forces in New York, the sheriff and all that. They got their own thing where they deal with their own people. So-called black people should have that as well. If you so-called black people really want to stop pushing the George Floyd police and that because it's bullshit. Nobody's going to do anything about that. It's BS. You should be pushing for a black division in all of the police departments around this country. You should be pushing for that. And if these black people, because I know they want to talk about, oh, well, see the black cops, look at what they did to the black guy and such what he did, look what those black cops did. Okay. And again, condolences to that young man's family. But 9 times out of 10, when a police officer is called, they tend to try to look at what they can relate to in a said suspect or a person who they are being called, to deal with. They try to look for the, what they can relate to in that person. When you call in these Caucasian police, these white officers, they don't relate to the black people they're going to have to deal with. They don't relate to those people. They already looking at them. They already got that racist, mentally ill mindset. You see? And again, you don't got to like nobody to police them. But a lot of these Caucasian and Asian and Latin or whatever officers have proven that they look at so-called black people as the enemy already. They already got this judgmental view when it comes to so-called black people, pulling them over, stopping them, or whatever the case is, or any encounters with them. They already got their hand on their gun. They already got that mindset. So what you're asking so-called black people to do is pay for policing that is already malevolent toward them, that already have a negative attitude. We don't got time to be worrying about, is this a good cop or is this a bad cop? No, the best way to solve that problem is to have black police officers deal with black people. Simple as that. So-called black police officers deal with so-called black people. I'm always saying so-called because, I don't buy into the black thing, but for all essential purposes, we're using the term black now for the public. Have so-called black people dealt with by black police officers. Let them be brought into the precinct, same precinct, but don't let no white officers arrest black people. Don't. You didn't allow black officers to arrest white people in Atlanta in the 50s and the 60s when you started letting black people become cops, black men become cops. You did not allow them in Atlanta to arrest white people. That was one of the laws that y'all put on the books. They could not arrest white people. But you let the white cops put their hands on and arrest black people. That's not right. Stand down for that, because they can stand. If you can stand up for that, go to Congress and say we want a black division in all these police departments, Atlanta, New York, and everything. Where black, they just deal with the black people. That's all. In fact, I'll go even a step further. There should be with the precincts where there are black people at. There should be all black precincts where there are black people at. You see, and black police unions to police our own people, like any other protected class. We should be a protected class, and meaning that we should protect ourselves, man. Stop looking for these Caucasians to play big brother to us and protect us and be policing over us, because they're not going to do the right thing by us, because we're not the same people, man. We're not your kind. And we don't, and I'm pretty sure that is the most, logical solution to this problem. So if black officers do, if they should abuse black, suspects or whatever the case may be, nobody can claim the race card no more. Nobody can claim the race card no more. I bet you 9 times out of 10 you'll hear they don't really want to do that. I'll read pretty much, because I'll say this: a lot of these policing communities, a lot of these people in these precincts all around the country, a lot of them get off on abusing black people. A lot of them do. A lot of them are straight racist. A lot of these people are mentally ill. You say that a lot, and you tell a lot of these white racists they can't arrest black people no more, they'll have a goddamn meltdown. They'll be ready to quit the force. Because a lot of them are mentally ill. A lot of them come to their job, and a lot of them took the job just so they can do what they do. You feed mental illness when you allow these people to come up here and take the job because they want to abuse somebody and they want to have the authority and a gun and a badge to abuse people. You are aiding in these people's mental illness. Shame on you DAs and these people that hire these people who are mentally ill. Shame on you examiners in the police department that hire these mentally ill people. You are creating a dangerous situation to the public, because once they no longer can abuse black people, who do you think they're going to turn on next? They're going to turn on their own kind. They're going to turn on you. Y'all think y'all can do this because y'all don't think, it'll come back to you. But anything that you put out, anything that you send out as foul is going to come back to you even fouler. Message to y'all. Warning. Let me see. While we must stop normalizing and justifying insanity, I said racism and all these other things and all this mental illness is really just a justification of mental insanity. That's all. By not calling out these people. See, people would rather be labeled racist than crazy. Because, see, to be labeled racist, let me give you a good example. Because I was going to do, I'm going to still do this. What is real white supremacy? I'm going to show you what that is in a second. But people would rather be labeled as racist than crazy. Why is that? Because a crazy person nobody takes a crazy person seriously. Nobody takes a crazy person seriously. The only thing you want to do with a crazy person is either get away from them or kill them. That's all you want to do with a crazy person, because that person, if you don't do that to them, if you don't kill them, and when they're trying to harm you, they'll take your life. You're sitting here, and again, either you're going to get away from a crazy person or you're going to kill them in order to defend yourself. You got no other choice. So if you start labeling these racist police officers, these racist Karens, these racist Caucasians as what they really are, crazy, then it's going to be a fight or flee type of thing. And what do you think is going to happen when people can't flee? They're going to fight because they're scared of your craziness. They know that you're going to try to kill them. So then they're going to defend themselves and fight back, and they might take your life. But then you want to criminalize them for doing that. You want to criminalize black people for fighting against somebody who's trying to harm them and take their life. And they tell them, stop resisting. And no, they're not resisting. You're just making up stuff to abuse people. So if people start trying to defend themselves and they trying to protect their life, you're going to try and lock them up for doing that. You're going to tell so-called black people they don't have a right to defend themselves. That's really what these police enclaves are saying. So-called black people don't have a right to defend themselves. In open carry states where you don't have to have a license to carry a gun, if a so-called black person shoots a white person or somebody else who's trying to attack them, they'll try and charge you with a crime. But they'll shoot you and they don't charge Caucasian with a crime. That's insanity. And that's y'all trying to normalize insanity. You should not be able to tell one group of people that they got the right to defend themselves and tell another group of people they don't. That's bullshit. That's a load of bullshit. And again, that's you trying to normalize your insanity through racism. Don't normalize your insanity, your mental illness through racism. That's all they trying to do. Nobody should go for that. I know I wouldn't. Everybody has the right to defend themselves. Everybody. I don't care what the person is. Like I said, if somebody coming to take your life and whatnot, then you should defend yourself. I don't care who they are. I talked about being soldiers of sanity. Everybody, every right-thinking man of every race should be a soldier of sanity. And why do I say that? Again, it's not a racial thing. This is a sane and insane thing. You don't have to like people. Get this straight in your mind. You don't have to like black people. You can think of them as niggers and everything else all you want to. You don't have to like white people. You can think of them as crackers and everything else as you want to. You can think of anybody the way you want to think of them as, but when you start crossing that line and talking about you going to kill somebody, or you going to put your hands on somebody, or you going to try to abuse somebody because you don't like them, then you're fucked up mentally. You're mentally ill. And mentally ill people who are dangerous publicly have to be put down like any wild animal. Any wild animal who is hiding behind racism that will attack people because of their mental illness, they must be put down like animals. If a wild animal is coming at you, what you got to do? You're either going to fight or flee. And if you can't flee, you're going to have to fight to the death. And that's how your mindset has to work with anybody. And again, that goes for anybody. Again, this ain't based on race. This is based on reality. I am not a racist. I'm a realist. God damn it, people want to live. You ain't got no right to decide who's going to live and who's going to die. That is left up to the Lord, man. The true Lord. Hell on. So we must become like soldiers of sanity, because you got so many soldiers of insanity out here, black, white, and everything in between. You got so many soldiers of insanity out here who think it is their job to go out here and harm and hurt people. They are no different than the child molesters. You can't say that no more. You can't say the P word no more on it. You can't the child enthusiasts, you call them that. The weirdos. You see, they just as dangerous as them. Your children. So they'll come up with some say, this person hates children, or he's racist against children, anything. They'll say they hate the children, and that's why they want to touch on the little children. They want to harm the children for that. They're normalizing insanity. You got people normalizing being a child enthusiast. Let's just call it that for the algorithms. Because it's funny how you can't say use the P word no more, the peg word. You see, that's because they're trying to normalize that degeneracy. Goddamn judgment coming for y'all, man. Soldiers of sanity. The confusion of females and women. I gotta discuss this. I get tired of you beta male simps out there. I get tired of you black beta male simps out there, and all you simps, all you MGTOW people, all you MGTOW guys, you men going your own way assholes. They're sitting out here. You just so perplexed over females who you think are women. Let me explain something to you. Let me give you a quick lesson from a 52-year-old man. There's a difference between women and females, dummies. There's a difference. You're always going to have problems with females. Females are not women. Women are not females. Two totally different people. Two totally different entities, powers, whatever you want to refer. Two totally different. A female just is anatomical. I've already explained this on my radio broadcast. Females are just anatomically correct. Women are mentally correct. Same thing with males and men. Males are anatomically correct, but not mentally correct. You have to be mentally correct to be deemed men and women. You have to be mentally correct. You have to acknowledge or know what it is to be men and women. See, there's levels to this. Again, you can have male dogs, male and female dogs, male and female cats, male and female insects, but they're not men and women. because all they're required to do is mass produce and have sex organs. That's what a lot of you people have reduced yourselves to in the society, you men and women. You have reduced yourself to males and females without the thinking minds of what it is to become real men and real women. You have reduced yourselves. Okay? So understand this. Let me put it this way. You guys that sit up here crying about these females and these women out here, they're not women. There's more females in the world than there are women. I'm going to let you know right now. See, when you have a real woman, you don't have these problems of worrying about whether they're going to be loyal to you or righteous towards you or good mothers to your children. See, you don't have to worry about that with women. You don't have to worry about that with women. Females, you got to worry about that with. Why? Because females they don't understand what it is to be women. You see, when you're a woman, you put your family and your children and things first. You grow out of that whole self-centered, selfish thing that these females have. You see, females are incomplete. They have not grown into being women. You got certain females who grow into being women, but some just don't. That's why you have these chicks up in the club in their 50s and whatnot in the club trying to compete with their little 18-year-old daughter. A good example is A.R.C. That's a female right there. That's not a woman. That's a female. No disrespect, but she ain't grown into no woman yet. Because no real woman would have had her ass on display with her 18-year-old, or 51-year-old woman with her ass on display with her 18-year-old. The last thing a real woman wants to do is display her daughter as a sex object. So for all you females out here sitting up here trying to big up A.R.C, it was just a picture and she didn't put it up. She allowed it to be put up. She stood there. Somebody had to take a picture of her mid-frame, her and her daughter posing together, because obviously this woman has issues. She has mental issues, emotional issues. And again, stop trying to mask mental issues. And again, white people are mentally ill. Black people are mentally ill. You got mentally ill Asian people. There's a lot of mentally ill people out here, and you're trying to mask it for something else. Whether you call it a midlife crisis or depression, racism, these are mentally ill people, and they should be looked at that way. The black female with the damn blonde, funky wig on her head, the cave woman wig on her head, trying to look like a white female, she's mentally ill, man. And you're trying to normalize mental illness. I look at that show, Indisputable Truth, and there's these two black females on there, right? And they come on there with their full-on blonde wigs on their head. There's two so-called black females on there, and they come up there with these two blonde wigs on their head, and they talking about white supremacy and racism. I'm like, I can't take y'all seriously. You are the what's the word I want to say? You are the product of white supremacy. You showing that you worship the image of white people by sitting up there with a whole blonde wig on your head. You look ridiculous. But nobody calls that or says anything about it. That's why when they start talking, I just turn it off, because that's very cringe. It's very cringy to see so-called black women talking about being proud of who you are and your race, and you got a damn blonde wig on your head. Or a straight head wig like a Caucasian female or Asian or whatever, the Asian silky link. Man, go ahead with that nonsense, man. I'm going to take you serious. You ain't even want to be who you really are. You meant to die off, man. So like I said, stop referring to these females out here as women. Females are anti-woman. Do y'all ultrasound? I'm going to do a broadcast. Check out my radio broadcast. I'm going to do something tonight on AR Radio. But I do a broadcast every night. Your females in the world today, your liberated females, are anti-woman. Especially your black liberated females. But your liberated females altogether are anti-woman. Because they stand against every and anything that is about real womanhood. These liberated females are anti-family. They're anti-masculine energy. They're anti-patriarchal energy and the leadership of the family. Because again, a lot of these liberated females are, why it gotta be a patriarchal thing? Why it gotta be a patriarchal? Why the man gotta be in charge? Because when somebody breaks in the goddamn house and y'all both laying in bed, since you say it's matriarchal, you get your ass up, go in the drawer and go get the gun and go down there and deal with that person. When somebody's coming to hurt the family, you go out in front and you defend and let him sit behind. See how you going to feel. You're going to call him all kinds of little B words and everything else or let him sit around and not earn money and let you go out and be the breadwinner. You're going to debase him as a man. You're going to call him every bitch in the damn world that you call him if he acts like he's not the head or not the one who taking charge and leading things. But then you turn around and speak against patriarchal rulership over the family. You see, a lot of these families are broken. The reason why you got a whole bunch of gangbangers and a whole bunch of little niggas going around here committing crimes and whatnot because they're being raised by black females. No fathers in the house. You had this guy who just made this video, 7 baby mamas. See, a lot of you black females, you getting pregnant by guys like this. The guy who made the new video with the 7 baby mamas. See, y'all don't know how to pick real men. That's the problem. A lot of y'all don't really want real men. You want these beta male simps out here who just all they interested in doing is laying their rod inside you, getting you pregnant, popping you, getting you pregnant, and going about their business. And then you're going to try to recover by raising the offshoots of these black males. You need to get with real bronze men who want to be dedicated to having families, raising families, and being the heads of their family. And you need to play your position as women. And stop trying to be the men. You see, as the guy Kevin Samuels said, you black females need to put your dicks up. Put your dicks up. Your imaginary dicks. Let me see. I got one more. Got any questions? Huh? Okay. I got a question.
What's the difference between the 20th century and the 21st century?
What is the difference between the 20th century and the 21st century? Mm-hmm. Different ways of thought, extended ways of thought. Because with every century, with every different phase in time, more higher or more extended thoughts come and fill that place in that time. So what was 20th century thinking is not going to be the same as what 19th century thinking was or what 18th century thinking was. So again, different time frames bring higher levels of thought. And that's the difference between, because again, we supposed to be on a higher level of thinking. That's why I said I'm surprised a lot of people still with this black nonsense. I'm surprised we still calling ourselves black people. That was a 20th century thing. I'm still surprised we calling ourselves African American. That was a 20th century thing. I'm like, seriously? With all of this information coming out on who we really are as the copper-colored races and whatnot. Now you see, back in the 20th century, a lot of our people probably couldn't have accepted it because they had been thoroughly brain-stained with this whole African American and black nonsense and Pan-African garbage. So they couldn't readily embrace the whole, the whole bronze thing and the whole American. Say again that? Now I'm going to have to get into it. Yeah, they couldn't readily embrace that, but now we can embrace it because it's out there now. If anybody's still calling themselves black in 2023 or following anybody that's calling themselves black, man, y'all need to exit the 21st century, man. Y'all need to get in the damn portal somewhere and take y'all ass back to the 20th century, man. Go back to the past, man. Get in the time warp. Because again, when I hear black, it just sounds so outdated. And when I hear African American and black, it's so outdated, man. That was never who we were in the first place. You know how they say all false things will perish? That's why that whole black thing and that whole Pan-African thing is perishing. A lot of you guys is pushing that whole Pan-African thing. You niggas gonna have to find a new profession, man. You gonna have to find a new profession to con people. And look, we ain't nobody feeling you in the American Indigenous section we putting together. Ain't nobody feeling you niggas. Y'all go somewhere else and push that dying Pan-African talk, man. That black talk. I got it. What's the next one?
Policy officers in the military just two-legged guard dog forces.
Like, you know?
Our policy officers in the military just two-legged guard dog forces.
Yeah, they are. They are. They meant to be like guard dogs. Your humans are really meant in the militaries and the policing. They really seen as guard dogs. They're really seen as two-legged guard dogs. And why I say that is because their commanders, notice they got their superior is called their commander, right? You command animals. You don't command men. You don't command men. You don't command them. You give men orders. You command animals. That's why they're called commanders. You see, you command animals because you want the animals that you have. You want your animals, just like your four-legged animals or your two-legged animals, to just attack on your word. You don't want them to really think about nothing. That's why I said a lot of these people is walking the planet. They're not even real men and real women. They're just males and females. Again, like dogs, you got male and female dogs. You got male. They already know that these humans are nothing but animals on two legs, man. As your high level scientist said, Dr. Charles Darwin. Which I want to address that before we close out, because I'm already almost finished with my things I wanted to talk on. You know, the guy Darwin, I want my thoughts on him, you know, because it still rings bells, and y'all look at Darwin as an authority on genetics and things like that, and you know, and evolution. They still look at Darwin as as somebody who is you know, an authority. You still look at Dr. Charles Darwin, and you know, when he said that humans come from animals, from monkeys. He said humans come from monkeys and apes. He even did the chart, Darwin's theory of the monkey to the man. It's funny how they always try to put black people in that and talk about black people like monkeys. No disrespect, but his own Caucasian scientists put white people up there. Now you can say, oh, he meant the whole human race. He didn't put the whole human race up there. He put white people up there. So your boy, Dr. Charles Darwin, one of your renowned geneticists and all that, he the one that said white people come from monkeys. He the one saying white people look like monkeys and come from monkeys. He the one that did the chart. He didn't put no black people on that chart. You see, and obviously he had to go with just looking at beyond, because physically you can see the similarities. And again, it's not to be racist at all. But it blows my mind when you get these white racist, mental ill people that sit up here and talk about black people look like monkeys. But then you got Charles Darwin, one of your accredited authorities on geneticism and all that y'all still hold up. Y'all ain't saying he's debunking him or calling him crazy. He said that white people evolve out of monkeys. He didn't show no blacks on that evolutionary line. But yet you call black people monkeys. Make that make sense to me. Or say black people like monkeys. Black people ain't got straight hair like monkeys. Black people ain't got thin lips like monkeys. They ain't got pale skin. So that just perplexes me when one of your scientists, clearly pointed out the difference, the similarities between humans and the monkeys. The rhesus monkeys. Now we know. But my thoughts on the racist humans and their verbal and physical attacks on black people. Again, mental illness. Chalk it up as mental illness. Please know that these people are mentally ill, and stop trying to get mentally ill people to understand what they're doing is wrong. They don't care about what they're doing is wrong. Because see, you keep calling these people racist, and they're not really racist. They're mentally ill. They're mentally ill because a real racist is somebody you would never even know is racist. You see, they keep that to themselves because they got enough sense to know that you may say that to the wrong person. You may say something crazy to the wrong person, and that person might be crazy enough to deal with you as you come into them. And again, you can have your own thoughts. You can have your own thoughts on race and everything, but the minute you start talking, you're going to put your hands on people, kill people, shoot up people. You are a threat. You are mentally ill. You are a threat that needs to be put down. Like any wild animal. The beast, they'll if you got a wild dog running the streets with rabies or a wild animal, what do you got to do? You got to kill it because it's out of its mind. Why are you acting like these people are any different? Why are you acting like any of these people is going out here shooting people or beating people because they don't like their race? Why are you acting like these people are any different than a wild animal? They got rabies or anything else. They got a form of mental rabies, man. They're sick. And they must be dealt with that way. Well, that's it. We got anything else before we close out? I have my say. No? All right. This has been good talk, good chopping it up. Share this link, share it everywhere. You know, and we're going to close out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. And Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and Amen we continue forward forever. Subscribe to this High and Mighty Talks channel. Join our lives and things like that. I know they're going to shadow ban this and when they don't like real logical and rational thoughts, but what the hell? The hell with them. So share this everywhere. High and Mighty Talk. Subscribe to my MENTELLECT Patreon where you can hear the raw and uncut broadcast where you know, MENTELLECT Patreon, MENTELLECT. A link should be down below this. MENTELLECT Patreon, and subscribe to the Ethnic American channel. Soon to be the American Indigenous. But anyway, subscribe to that with Sister N. Robinson. And with that, we out.